Hey yo, what's good with it, y'all? It's your boy Logan. I'm here with my homeboy Elijah. Say what up, Elijah.
What's up, y'all? How y'all doing?
And we are here this week talking about a couple albums that dropped. We had an album by Brent Faiyaz. We had a Taylor's version. And then, Elijah, what was that other album that you said you listened to? I didn't know anything about it. He just told me about it a couple minutes ago.
Yeah. It's Mariah the Scientist. It's called, hold on, in case you didn't know, it's called To Be Eaten Alive.
There we go. Yeah, and I've heard of her, Mariah, but like I said, I didn't know anything about that album dropping, so that we'll leave all that up to him. But we'll go ahead and jump into first this Brent Faiyaz album, Larger Than Life, which clocks in at 14 tracks and 36 minutes. If you don't mind, Elijah, I will give just a quick summary of Brent just before we get into talking about this album.
Go ahead.
So Brent Faiyaz, he's someone that I discovered personally, just my personal journey. I discovered him in 2020. I had seen a lot of people talking about Sunder Son, but I had never actually ventured off into listening to it until he dropped F the World, and I enjoyed it so much. But going back a little bit, Sunder Son, that is the album, that's his debut album, at least on Spotify and all the major streaming platforms. That's the album that really started to catch attention. I don't think that he's taken another leap since then in terms of popularity. I think he's kind of stayed at that same level, just gradually rising a little bit. But either way, that was a really solid project that I think a lot of people enjoyed, me included. Then he takes a good break, gets to F the World, which is my personal favorite of his projects. There was just a lot of songs on there that I really enjoyed, like Been Away, Let Me Know, and Bluffin'. A lot of like more cloudy, dark production, a little bit of toxicity in there, but that's not like all that his music is. He's not like, The Weeknd or Party Next Door or someone like that. But then you get to Wasteland, where it is definitely a lot more toxicity on that project, which just came out last year. That was honestly one of my, I'm not going to say it was like one of my favorite projects of last year, but it was definitely up there in terms of what I enjoyed. And it's also his longest project. If you look at the time, Sunder Son was 42 minutes, F the World was 26, Wasteland clocked in at 64 minutes. And then again, that compares to this one, Larger Than Life, which was 36 minutes. So it was definitely him undertaking a longer project and seeing if he could hold that, and he definitely did. Now, I will say I was surprised to see he was dropping this week because, again, he dropped in 2017, 2020, major big project in 2022. Now, this is the shortest time span between projects, one, but also it's coming off of his longest and probably most thought-provoking project, in my opinion, again, with last year's Wasteland. So, kind of caught me as a shock that he was dropping this. Anything you want to add to a little bio history of him, Elijah?
Yeah. So, Logan said he discovered him in 2020, but a lot of people may have heard of him back in 2016. Back with in the song Crew with Gold Link. He kind of made that song, honestly, to be real. And ever since then he's been an artist that I've really enjoyed. I'm not gonna say he's one of my favorites. I'm not gonna say I look for his music, like specifically seek out his music per se, but like when I hear he's dropping something, I'm like, oh, okay, let me go listen to it. I agree with Logan that early on his music wasn't very toxic, but I have to say more recently, he absolutely has kind of taken on that toxic, I want to say toxic king role. He's kind of followed into that P&D, The Weeknd type trope. Not that that's a bad thing. I'm not saying it's bad. Yeah. I'm just saying he's kind of definitely transitioned more into that. And one thing I do like is that he mixes his toxicity a lot with that dark and cloudy production. And yes. I think it's a little bit different than The Weeknd and P&D. They both occasionally have dark and cloudy production with their toxicity, but Brent Faiyaz leans way more into that than either of those two do in that sense.
Brent is probably more comparable to like Trilogy era Weeknd.
Exactly.
Than like, let's say, After Hours Weeknd.
Exactly. But like I said, he's been around since 2016. So this is seven years now that he's been, I should say, relevant. Obviously artists have been making music longer than when they blow up most of the time. But for most people, he's been around since 2016. He dropped his first album in 2017. It was a pretty, very, people loved it. It was a great album.
Fairly successful.
Then he dropped F the World in 2020, which was a very interesting time to drop that album. It kind of got, I want to say it kind of got lost in the fold at the time because, pandemic, obviously, and there was other bigger albums that dropped, like, for example, After Hours,
I definitely think it's underappreciated, though. It was better than the amount of listeners it got. That doesn't speak for how good of a project it actually was.
Absolutely, and I'd say that right there is kind of a spoiler alert. That's kind of a trend for his music in general. I feel personally that a lot of his music is better than what fans or listeners. Not that people say bad things about his music, but like I feel like his music's better than the amount of people that actually listen to him. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with that. I agree with that, definitely. Now, as we get into this project, what are your initial thoughts on Larger Than Life, Elijah?
Yeah, okay. So I really enjoyed this album. Number one, I actually loved the briefness of the album, the shortness of the album. The length was perfect for me. I feel like he did a great job in the amount of time that he put in there to make every song sound and feel great. The album flowed well. And my initial thoughts, I say this a lot, but it's really important to me that if you're going to have features on an album, the features need to hit, and every single feature hit on this album. So that's something I really enjoyed about this album. Every single feature hit. Again, I just want to say this. I think we're in a day and age of like producers now. Not that music production back in the day wasn't good or anything, but like there's been very few albums that have dropped that I've just been like, this production's terrible. Like, and this is another example of great production. This album just I couldn't find a single song off the top of my head, or when I was listening to it through my 2 times that I listened to it, I didn't find a single song that was like the production was a letdown in my mind. Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a really solid to great album, honestly. I think he did a great job with what he put out, and I think he did a great job of keeping it to a point where it wasn't too long either.
Yeah, no, I agree with that 100%. I do really enjoy, like you said, the features. Thought it was really cool to hear A$AP Rocky. Hopefully, we're keeping our fingers crossed that he's getting close to gearing up to another album. It's been 5 years for him. So it was really cool to hear him. Again, hearing another A$AP member, A$AP Ant on the track listing. Missy Elliott doesn't really stand out in the biggest sense, but fits very well. I think it was cool to have her on a track. Overall, I think that he did a great job picking the features on this project. So I agree 100% with that point. Now, as for the sound of this project, I feel like it was not something extremely different from what he normally does, but it was a little bit different. Again, still some of that cloudy production, but I felt like there was a lot more focus on just being full-on R&B. Like, a lot of the times I felt like I was listening to, like, Jodeci or Boyz II Men more so than Brent Faiyaz, just with the vibe and sound that I was getting from him. Again, not so much what you would expect on a previous album like Wasteland or F the World. This was definitely giving me more 90s R&B vibes on this one. And I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I really liked about this album too is so usually Brent Faiyaz, he's definitely a singer, but if you listen to some of his other albums, he has a lot more rapping along with singing, not like rapping like rapping, but more of the sing rapping, if that makes sense. This album there was very few of that from him, at least. It was more just like Logan said, it was more just him, his R&B vibes, and I actually really enjoyed that. One thing I really feel like, Jodeci, you hit it spot on with the Jodeci. That's definitely the vibes I was getting when I was listening to this album in terms of just like how it sounded, how he sounded. And I talked about the features, but I just wanted to point out, I don't know if you really know much about Coco Jones. She's a newer artist. She has a song, I See You. I don't know if you heard that song, but I'm gonna tell you guys, watch out for her. She's an amazing singer. She sounded great on Moment of Your Life. In fact, I feel she was the best part of that song. I feel like she made that song, in my opinion. And again, just another example of a great feature. I mean, Logan already said ASAP Rocky. I mean, of course, Outside All Night is probably going to be everybody's favorite song off this album.
Yeah.
ASAP Ant, it was nice getting him. Babyface Ray surprised me, honestly.
Yeah.
And like, I really loved how he fit in with Brent Faiyaz, and it was I don't even want to say surprising because I haven't heard a song by his that I just didn't like, but like I really was surprised that he was able to kind of match Brent Faiyaz's vibes along with, you know, because I mean, Babyface is like he's kind of more of a rapper singer, if that makes sense. You know, he doesn't really sing necessarily, but he has that melodic rap, I should say, and he did a great job tying his melodic rap in with Brent Faiyaz's voice and just the beat, the production. I mean, I could go on and on about how well the features did in this album. I mean, and obviously getting a Missy Elliott feature this in 2023 is like, you know, icing on the cake.
Yeah, that's really cool.
But you know, just overall, I really enjoy this album. This is an album I can see myself going back to, and I probably will going back to. I mean, to be honest, my girlfriend loves Brent Faiyaz like this, so I'm sure I'll hear it even if I don't go back to it, but I'm sure I'm going to go back to it plenty of times for a while. There's just a lot of great songs that will age very well, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I can't say that I see myself coming back to this whole project a lot. I do feel like this is one of his less cohesive overall projects, just, you know, in terms of what he's released against Undersun, F the World, and Wasteland. I felt like were more cohesive projects where this was just a collection of sounds. Not that there's anything against that. Again, he just released a really big project last year, and this is just a shorter, again, I feel like this is a shorter, just almost playlist type, you know, it kind of fits with the same vibe. I really enjoy that. I think there's a couple of tracks that I'm definitely going to come back to on here. So again, I'm not saying any of what I just said to detract from this. I don't think that was the point of the project.
Right.
I am 100% on board with everything you're saying. Again, I don't think it's going to be like one of those. I'm going to remember this project whenever I think about the year 2023 in music. I do think 2023 has been a relatively good year for music. Not like one of the best, but yeah, going back to think about this year, I can't say this is an album where I'm going to, oh, yes, I specifically remember this album for 2023, but
right.
I think that it is good. I think it had a couple of good tracks on it that I really enjoyed, and I'm going to think positively back to it, especially, like, you know, next time he drops a project, I'm going to look back and say, oh, yeah, I've enjoyed every project he's dropped. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Yeah, and I mean, I'll agree with you on that. Most likely this is going to be I'm going to take a few tracks off this album, and those are going to be just in rotation in my playlist for a while, most likely. This album, I'm going to say this is not it. I'm saying this as not an insult, just to be clear. This is probably going to be forgotten, like Logan kind of said. Not that it's an album that deserves to be forgotten, but like, I mean, realistically, it does come across more as a playlist than an album. It's not super cohesive, and that's not an issue, and I think it actually works well for this project specifically. The cohesion, it doesn't need the cohesion. I think it just sounds great sonically. So, you know, again, I think I like the album. Do I think it's going to be anything that anything after like a couple months that people are going to be talking about? Probably not. But you'll probably still hear Outside All Night. You'll probably also hear Moment of Your Life, and then maybe Last One Left. Those three songs you'll probably still hear, months and months from now. So, which I think, honestly, that's still a good thing for an album if you have multiple songs that have the ability to stay in people's playlists for a while. I think that's still a great thing to say.
Especially in today's day and age of streaming. A lot of people don't listen to albums anyways. They just find songs that they like. And honestly, I mean, that's one of the reasons why we're doing this, is so that we can give you some songs to add to your playlist if you're not listening to the entire album.
Exactly.
So I do think that that's what a lot of artists go for, is finding certain songs that will just push them forward. Especially in the TikTok day and age.
Oh, God, yes.
Yeah. That is not what Brent is doing, but that's definitely what a lot of artists who are blowing up now are doing. But moving right along, our next project we want to talk about is 1989 Taylor's Version, which, of course, as you all know, is a Taylor Swift project that dropped back in 2015. It won the Grammy for overall album of the year. We're going to go ahead and get that out of the way now. It did not deserve that over To Pimp a Butterfly. No more talk about that. We already know. Still a really great project that was definitely deserving of being nominated for the award. Definitely deserving of being nominated. It's just when you have a timeless project, not that this isn't timeless, but when you have one of the greatest projects of all time versus one of the best projects of 2015, the one that's one of the best of all time should have won. Just got that out
Absolutely.
of the way now. Don't want to talk about it anymore, okay? We know. But getting back into this one, I can't say this has always been my favorite Taylor Swift album, but it is definitely a good one. It is one that I have on vinyl because of my wife. She had this one whenever we met, so I've just kind of added it to my collection now. It's our collection, whatever. I enjoy it. It has a lot of hits on it. Again, like I said, I prefer Reputation. I prefer Red. This would probably be my third favorite, I guess. And this is, let me check my facts on this one, how many Taylor's versions she has dropped. So she dropped a Taylor's version this year for this one and Speak Now. In 2021 for Red and Fearless. So left to do, she still has Reputation and her debut album, self-titled album, Taylor Swift. So she's done 4 so far, 2 to go. Again, everything from Lover on, 2019 on, has been under her own release. It's not owned by anyone else. That's the reason why she's doing this, so that she has ownership of her music. It's also a way to release like an extra deluxe version of them, with this one adding, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 from the vault tracks, which, just going back, that is one thing I want to mention. This one I feel like has less from the vault tracks than what I would have liked. Speak Now was kind of on that same wavelength there, but Red, I feel like, added a lot, because it comes up to a 30-song, 2-hour and 10-minute project, and I feel like that's her best Taylor's version. As long as that is, it's like she dropped it for the fans, whereas
Exactly.
the deluxe version of Red, which dropped back in 2012, was 22 songs. So that's 8 extra songs and 30 extra minutes of music. That's not to take away from this project at all. As I said, I do think I want to talk about first just the original project, and then we'll talk about what was added for the Taylor's version. Elijah, if you want to give just your initial thoughts on this project. I feel like I've been talking for too long, and I need to give you a little podium here.
No, it's fine. You were going off. I was letting you have it. But I'll say this. I respect and I actually love that she's re-recording these albums. I don't want to get too much into what happened. Maybe we'll do an episode where we kind of explain why she's being forced to do this. But essentially, I love that she's taking ownership of her music. That is her music, because if you know anything, no matter how you feel about Taylor Swift, one thing you got to respect is her artistry. She writes her songs. Yeah. She plays instruments. She does that. So. Yeah. It's great that she's able to take ownership of her songs. Exactly. She's able to take ownership of her songs and her albums, and I love that she's re-releasing it for the fans as well, so that the fans can also enjoy the music. That being said, I'll say this. I don't hate Taylor Swift. I have nothing against her. I feel neutral about her. I'm not a big fan of hers, so I will say this album, I remember this album because it came out 2015. That's the year I graduated high school, and I remember hearing every single hit off this album back in 2015. And I remember it being like, okay, I liked a lot of the songs, that were playing on the radio, the hits. And when I listened to the Taylor's version of this, I found it kind of hard at times to really I noticed the production sounded more clean in this version than the older version, which makes sense. Obviously, updated production, updated studio equipment, that type of thing, of course. But what surprised me was her vocals, and I think this is actually a positive thing that I'm about to say. But what surprised me is her vocals. I couldn't really tell much of a difference between her vocals now and back then. And I think that's a great thing, because I feel like it brings you back to the album. Yeah, that's what. That's
if I can't interject on that one.
Go ahead.
If you look at her Taylor's version, you are definitely noticing more of a difference on her vocals for like the Fearless version and the Speak Now version, whereas Red and this one, you're not noticing as much of a difference. That's just because obviously after her first 3 projects, she kind of made that switch from being more country, and then even like on Speak Now, she was a little bit of a mixture of country and pop. By the time you get to Red, and then especially 1989 and on, she's full on pop. So that definitely adds up. That her sound is a lot more similar now, even 8 years later. And it definitely, again, like he said, it's a good thing. It's a positive for her, and it helps to keep the cohesiveness of the album, because you could tell there were some changes. Although that could be fun for you, there were some changes to Speak Now since she doesn't have that country twang anymore. So that could be disappointing to some people who are more of a fan of country Taylor. I know my wife is a major fan of, like, her favorite Taylor album is the first one, which is where, of course, she was the most country. I feel like she's going to be sorely disappointed when she hears that one and Taylor's not sounding as country as she was on the original.
But, I enjoyed this project. I mean, going back listening to it, so I didn't listen to the original version this time because I've heard the original version so many times, but I probably will go back and listen to the original version again just so I can kind of see if I can really hear any differences. But one thing I really liked is so let's get the cat out of the bag. You kind of said it earlier. Kendrick Lamar, she put Bad Blood, the remix, on this album, on Taylor's version of this album, and I love the fact that he came back in and he re-recorded his verse. And like the thing about it is, I don't know if you noticed, but I noticed immediately that it definitely sounded different, but not in like the wow. I can't,
not extremely different.
Not extremely different, but the differences added to it more. In fact, and it made it even better for me because I was like, wow, like because Kendrick has always been one of those artists that has wow, we're talking about this is Taylor Swift. I want to talk about Kendrick, but Kendrick always is good with voices. He's always been big on changing his voice, having different type of inflections in his voice and everything. So the fact that he was able to pretty much hit exactly the same amount of voice inflections and everything on this version as the previous version was impressive. Yep. And then when the little changes, the slight little minute changes that were there, made it just even better. But now that I got my obligatory praising Kendrick out the way, going back to Taylor herself, I really, actually, again, I enjoy this album. And this is coming from me not being a big fan of her. I re-listened to this, I was like, okay, this album is actually a really good album. Of course, you have the hits, which everybody knows, Blank Space, we got Bad Blood, of course. It was Blank Space, Bad Blood, and then what else was there was one more.
Shake It Off. That was the biggest one.
Shake It Off. There you go. Yep, Shake It Off. So those 3 were the big hits. But a few of the songs I really liked. So was Slut, was that from the Vault?
No. Yes, that's
okay. No, okay. It is from the Vault. Okay. So
yes.
I liked that song. I really liked that song actually. I liked how she sounded in that song. I mean, really, honestly, her vocals sounded amazing in general. She's a great singer.
Yeah.
And I really liked.
That's just a given on a song from her.
Exactly, and I really liked. Again, this is why I say the production point being cleaned up a little bit more. It really made her voice stand out even more. It made her the way she sings and the way that she's able to project her voice was brought on more by the production, I feel like, in this album, because it was a little bit crisper, cleaner, everything. And I mean, I can keep going on with praises and praises. I mean, I can't think of anything negative about this album, other than, I'm not a huge Taylor Swift fan, so it's not like I'm going to bump this album necessarily. But, like, it's Taylor Swift. So, do you have anything else you want to add to that, Logan?
Yeah, so I'll add to it. Obviously, you mentioned the 3 biggest hits, being Bad Blood, Blank Space, and Shake It Off. Again, yes, absolutely. Those were the biggest hits. I do want to bring up, like, Style. That was another hit from this project. Wildest Dreams. What was the other one that I remember hearing a lot back in the day? I Know Places. That was another one. And I've always personally been a fan of the intro, Welcome to New York. That just definitely has, like, that intro track energy that you want from a project that you're gonna enjoy. I also always enjoyed the song Out of the Woods. Again, those two are less hits, but just songs that I enjoyed personally. Overall, yeah, I really enjoyed this project when it first dropped. I always thought that the first half was stronger than the second half. I mean, you've got Welcome to New York, Blank Space, Style, Out of the Woods. Those are the first 4 tracks. Then you still got All You Had to Do Was Stay. That was still a really big track. Shake It Off. I Wish You Would, Bad Blood, and Wildest Dreams. So that's all the tracks in order there. And then you get lesser known, lesser popular songs, a little bit slower, which is a good side of her, but again, that's just the less, I guess, enjoyable side of the project to me. Again, it's still good. Now, in terms of when we get to the From the Vault tracks, I enjoyed every single one of these songs. I don't feel that they added as much to this project as she would have wanted. That's another trend that we're kind of seeing carry over from Speak Now, where it's cool to hear the songs. Obviously, this one, I think, is a little bit more important because you're hearing a lot of things about Harry Styles that obviously kind of is going to go over our head a little bit. But if you're a major Taylor fan, you're going to know, like, oh, she's talking straight up about Harry Styles. And I think she mentioned acid rock on a song. So, no, what are you into, Harry, man? Come on. But no, a lot of her fans are definitely going to enjoy those tracks. I personally enjoy more when she does something like what she did for Speak Now. Again, added less. I didn't add as much to that project either, but like you had a Fall Out Boy feature on one of the Vault tracks. You had a Haley Williams feature on one of the Vault tracks. I thought that was really cool to just see different things. Yeah, this one she doesn't really have any features on there. So that's a little disappointing. Again, that's something I've mentioned being extremely excited for, getting to my favorite project, the Reputation album. Just looking forward to that one because she had Future on there. So for one point, Kendrick re-recorded his verse. Is she getting Future to re-record his? Because that would be cool. But I mean, on another point of view, I want to hear other rappers get featured on there because that was definitely more of a hip-hop influenced project. Even if Future was the only rapper on the project, it was definitely more hip-hop based, you know? A lot more aggressive, all that. Either that or what I would want from the Vault tracks is to just give us more emotion, like how she ends Red, Taylor's version, with All Too Well, a song that we already had on the original version, but it's the 10-minute version. And I know a lot of people tell their stories of hearing it for the first time and just crying. I thought it was a very beautiful track as well and a great addition to there. Again, I don't feel like we got all that. I think they were good tracks. I think they were tracks that were good to hear, and obviously, like, when you're doing these drops, include them. But there aren't ones where I'm like, oh my god, they should have been on the original, like All Too Well 10-minute version. That was like, you should have dropped that back in the day. I'm glad we got it now, but these, I understand why they weren't on the original project, you know?
Right. And, you know, if I may interject real quick, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah, you're good.
I do want to say, I think that, I think they do add to the listen, the listenability of the album. So that we're not saying, I don't think Logan's saying that, you know, he didn't like the tracks. Obviously, I don't think he's saying that they weren't.
I enjoyed the
they
tracks.
shouldn't have been on the album. But you know, I get where he's going from. Where like I feel like if you listen to the whole album, those tracks, great, and I'm glad she included them. I think they were it's good that she included them. But like, it's one of those times where like if she didn't include them, it wouldn't have necessarily hurt the album either. Yeah. It wouldn't have hurt anybody's. It wouldn't have hurt anybody's experience listening to the album if she hadn't included those.
Yes. Well, let me clean up my point a little bit. For a Taylor's version project, you have to include these types of tracks. But if we were just going back to when 1989 was originally released, and this is the version you got, you would have said, it's a little long, we need to cut it back some, whereas the version we got is that cut back version that we got, and that's why it was so good. So on a glorified deluxe release, you know, that's what this is really. It's a glorified deluxe release, just with more purpose behind it. Again, obviously talking about her taking back her music for herself. You have to include those extra tracks, but as with any deluxe album release, the couple of tracks that it's adding are usually going to not fit in with the rest of the project as well.
Yeah.
And that's fine. That's the point behind a deluxe album. Just, hey, here's a couple extra songs for you to enjoy. Don't use them to judge the entire project. Here's, like I said, here's your 15-track album. Let's add 5 to it, make it a 20-track album, but these 5 are just completely separate for your enjoyment.
Exactly.
That's really the way I view it. And again, that's why I'm saying it doesn't detract from it. I enjoy these songs. I do want to see if we can get something more introspective, something more experimental, you know. Again, these are kind of fitting in with the end of that track list anyways, just not as good, and you understand why they got cut, I guess. Is
right. And I will say, again, me not being a huge Taylor fan, I remember this album when it first dropped, and again, not trying to say anything bad about this album, but I remember this album, one of the things people were saying, this was never really an introspective album by her per se. This was always more of just a, I want to say a response to the time type album, if that makes sense. So to explain kind of what I mean, just to give you some history. I remember this because this was a big deal back then. But Bad Blood was actually about Selena Gomez. If you guys don't know this, or if you guys are too young to know this, just give you a little quick history. Selena and Taylor Swift used to be like really close friends. I forgot what exactly happened there. I don't really remember, nor do I care to try to find it out. But you know, something happened there, and Taylor wrote Bad Blood about her. Well, I shouldn't say she wrote it about her. That's the speculation, I should say. So, you know, and one thing you'll know, if you're a Taylor fan, you probably already know this. Taylor's very, very, very good at putting tracks about people without naming them or without making it absolute. Like, she's very good at making it obvious who it's about, but not making it obvious at the same time.
Mm-hmm. If she wasn't a blonde white girl, she'd be one of the best diss rappers of all time.
Literally, she would be, because she's so good at that, and I love it. I love the pettiness, but it's like pettiness, but polite pettiness is what I like to say, because she's very much like you. You could say it's about anybody, really.
Dropping subliminals.
Exactly, and I love it. I love that from the biggest pop artist in the world right now. That's
Yep.
I love hearing that.
And that's definitely still something that she's doing to this day. So. That has stuck with her for the longest time, and I enjoy that aspect of her music a lot.
And just to be clear, you know, I was looking at the projected sales of this album, which is absolutely insane. God. But it's like going to surpass. They're projecting like what 1.2 to 1.5 million or something like that.
Yeah. Which a lot of that is physical copies. Like, her fans buy records, they buy CDs, absolutely. Mm-hmm. But I mean, her streaming numbers alone are. I mean, it's better than Drake's album, and that one did pretty good.
Now, they are saying that Drake's album, or no, not the album, his songs are still going to stay number one, is what they're projecting. I think it's, I can't remember which one's number one. I don't know if it's the one or Rich Baby Daddy, but either way,
it's one of those. The one that originally debuted number one was the one with J. Cole. I don't know if that's still how it is now.
I think that one dropped because we were talking about TikTok. The Yeet song, the song with Yeet, that song is blowing up on TikTok. It's trending on TikTok right now. And then, of course, Rich Baby Daddy, I expected that one to trend too. So I think off the strength of that, those two songs are like 1 and 2 right now, and I think they'll stay that way. But in terms of just pure sales, Taylor Swift is blowing anybody out the water. I don't think anybody's come close this year to what she's projected to go, which is insane. First week,
and it's
that is not even.
It's crazy in a world that we live in, like, with so many great artists. I mean, obviously, she was always going to outsell a rapper. Drake kind of transcends rap to a degree, even though his music isn't as good lately. But, I mean, she's outselling artists like Beyonce or The Weeknd, you know, Ed Sheeran, you know, these huge artists that everybody loves. She's outselling. So she's definitely the easiest and best marketable artist in the world right now. I do see a lot of people make arguments for her being the biggest of all time. I don't think that anyone will ever eclipse the Beatles or Michael Jackson, or even, as much as I hate to mention them, even Elvis on that front. So I don't think that she's in that conversation, but I do think that it's fine to mention her in the same paragraph. Not the same sentence, but I think it's fair to mention her in the same paragraph as those artists.
Yeah, and absolutely. In fact, in terms of numbers, I think she needs to be in that conversation up there with the artists, because if you just look at her numbers, and I think Drake is similar, just to a lesser degree, because obviously as a rapper, he's inherently going to have less, just because pop and rap is just how it is. But both him and Taylor are up there in terms of numbers, like getting close to where the Beatles, Michael Jackson, and all of them are purely just off of numbers. You could argue now in this day and age if streaming has a huge impact on that. I say yes and no, because
I
would
love to see the type of numbers that Michael Jackson would have put up.
Exactly. Right.
Like,
but
imagine
we're talking about somebody like,
oh my God, Michael Jackson's dropping a new album this week. It's called Thriller. I can't wait to hear it. That son would have sold 5 million first week in the streaming.
Absolutely.
Oh my God.
Absolutely, yes. Absolutely would have sold 5 million.
Like some ridiculous number. Oh my God.
And again, this is not.
It would have gone diamond week 1.
This is not to put any throw any shade on Taylor or any other artist, but it's just how it was back in the day. But like now, I mean, the fact that Taylor's pulling in 1 million in the first week, like when is the last time we've heard artists do that? Like,
honestly,
it's been a long time since we've heard artists do that.
And now again, we are in a weird time of music sales where they were really high, and then we had this random dip, and then they were really high again because of the removal and then the re-addition of bundling counting towards sales. So we are in a really weird time with that, but I think she sells like that regardless. Like I said, her fans are gonna go to the stores, they're gonna go to Target, they're gonna come home with the vinyl, even if they don't have a record player. They're just gonna come home with it just to hang on the wall. And there's another thing. I do think this has a good album cover. So just to throw that out there,
definitely.
But yeah, she has the most ravenous fan base, for better or for worse. Definitely for worse in some cases. If y'all can be a little self-reflective. But I do love the support that her fans give her, man. It is really impressive. I wish that more artists got that type of support. I think that she deserves it to a degree. I can't say that I think that she deserves to be the biggest artist in the world. I don't think that she's... I'm going to go into a little rabbit hole here. A lot of people, again, act like she's the greatest artist of all time, compare her to Michael Jackson, stuff like that. I don't think she's done anything to push the music forward in that sense. I think that she found something she's good at that already existed, and she perfected it. I don't think that she created something entirely new. But, like I said, she found her niche, she stuck to it, she perfected it more and more and more, and gained a huge following, and like I said, I will never take anything away from her on that front.
And I'll be the one to say it.
She's a good songwriter, good at choosing features, blah blah blah. Go on, Elijah.
I'll be the one to say it, because Logan didn't want to say it. You mentioned Beyonce. Beyonce's a better overall artist. Let's be real. Beyonce just is.
Yeah.
That's not, and again, that's not an insult. We're talking about Beyonce, of course. So like, duh. But I just want to make it clear that I think Taylor deserves what she deserves what she's getting in terms of like the love from her fans and everything, because again, and I think we are going to have to bring this up in an episode one day. We're going to have to talk about this because I feel like this is something that's really important, not just for Taylor Swift, but just for the industry in general, because it's been happening a lot recently, more and more recently. But the reason why I say that, we'll talk about that in another podcast at some point. But just know that I'm always going to be in support of any artist that either owns their own masters. So like somebody like Russ, for example, I support that because he owns his own masters. He makes all the money off his music. He doesn't have anybody who can buy his catalog and all that stuff. So the fact that she's doing this, and I love the fact that her fans are so supportive. She has such a supportive fan base that she can release the same album. And again, not an insult, because she's doing a great job of adding new songs, vaulted songs, and also re-recording the lyrics and the music so it actually sounds updated too. But the fact that she's doing these numbers off of albums that have literally already been released, because
that's another thing.
People are we're supporting her because we know like the situation. Like, I love that. And I don't know if we'll ever get I don't know if we're gonna get other artists that are gonna follow her suit. Probably not, just because a lot of other artists don't have they don't have the bandwidth, honestly, to be able to do what she's doing.
Yeah.
But again, I just think it's bigger than just this album. I must say, like the whole fact that she's doing these Taylor versions, and I think she's paving a way potentially for more artists to potentially follow in her suit if they choose to do so. And I love that she's the one doing it, being the trailblazer in this.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like I said, I look forward to her releasing her last two. We also always look forward to her releasing new music. I personally enjoyed Midnights when she dropped it. What was that, last year? Yeah, she dropped that last year.
Yeah, last year.
I think she still has a lot to give us in terms of music. Like I said, it's also just easy to support her because we don't know her personally. She could just be the worst person, but she comes off as a very well-meaning, good-hearted person. She's never really had major drama outside of like just the breakup she's had and the beefs and pettiness she's done. Like, she's never been like that kind of person to go into anything like that. You can even tell that from the way she handled the Kanye situation.
Right. Because
as much as we love Kanye, like a very well-meaning person.
As much as we love Kanye, we know he was the reason why that beef got to the point it did.
Oh yeah, yeah, exactly. And you even see that
him and her fans.
The recorded, yeah. But you even see that in terms of like him calling her to get permission to put that lyric on that we all know on The Life of Pablo, and she's like, "Hey, it's cool. You can do it. I'm fine with that. I appreciate you asking me." I think that's really cool of her. But enough about Taylor Swift. Elijah, if you want to talk about this Mariah the Scientist project real quick, and we can wrap up.
Gotcha. Yeah. So just to give you guys a little quick back view of her, I should say. Mariah the Scientist. She actually went to college with Lil Yachty. I didn't know if you guys knew that, but she went to college with Lil Yachty. I didn't know that until last year. Actually, they had some Twitter back and forth. It was kind of funny, and that's where I found out. Wait, they actually went to college together. So, but she went to college with Lil Yachty, but she's from Atlanta. So, with me saying that, she probably is very, very good because most Atlanta artists are just very good. Yeah. But she's from Atlanta. She's been releasing music since 20. So she's been releasing solo music, I think, since 2020. But she's been on a couple of songs. One of the biggest songs she was on was "Abandoned" by Trippie Redd back in 2019. That was off of.
I love that song.
Yep.
That is "Love Letter to You 4." I already know.
Yep, there you go. "Love Letter to You 4." So I'm sorry, she's been releasing her own music since 2019. So a year earlier. So yeah, so that tracks. She's R&B, of course. Although if any of you know her on Twitter, she wants to be considered something other than R&B. I don't know why she decides she wants to do that, but hey, whatever. We're just gonna ignore that and call her R&B because she's R&B. But she had a Rah World. It was her debut album. It was a really good album. There's some really good tracks on that one. She just dropped To Be Eaten Alive as her second album. She has a couple other mixtapes, not really mixtapes, but I guess projects. I don't know necessarily what they're called with R&B. I guess just projects. But she's been steadily releasing music since 2019, and this album was preceded by a song called "From a Woman," which tied in with Young Thug also releasing a song called "From a Man." They were released on the same day, kind of put up together as parallel songs, which is very interesting. But going on to this album, From a Woman is on this album, of course, and this album is very much just a reflection of just her vibes, how she is, and everything, And I don't want to go too into it because I know Logan didn't really listen to it, so there's not really much you could put into this. So, but I will say that if you guys are looking for a new album to listen to, it's 28 minutes long, 10 songs, 28 minutes. So you're not going to be sitting there for too long listening to it. But she's a great singer. Very much makes the song from her voice, if that makes sense. There's a few artists that are, again, I said it, I think last week I said it, where there's R&B artists that can sing, and there's R&B artists that can sing. She's getting to that point where I think she can sing. she's constantly outperforming the production. The production is great on this album, of course. Spoiler alert. What a surprise. But, you know, I think the standout tracks on this album are Out of Luck, of course, From a Woman. I think Ride, featuring Young Thug, is also a really good song. In case y'all didn't know, she and Young Thug are, I guess, boyfriend and girlfriend. I'm not entirely... I think that's what it is. If you watch the video from a Woman, it seems pretty clear that they have a relationship, at least in that sense. But her and Young Thug have great chemistry together on songs, either way. And you know, just want to say, if you want to add a new album to the rotation, but you know, or just want to listen to a new album, want to listen to an artist who's kind of blowing up a little bit, getting a little bit more shine, Mariah Scientist is definitely someone who's worth listening to. And I think this album is a great stepping stone to listening to her if you haven't really heard much of her music before. And me talking directly to Logan on this one, I think you would actually enjoy this album. It's very much it's very much an emotional type album, not super emotional like make you cry type album, but it's emotional so that you could feel the emotion she's conveying through her music. And again, it's only 28 minutes, so worst comes to worst, you waste less than half an hour, and then half an hour, yeah. Exactly. But I just wanted to bring that up. I figured that since that dropped, that may not be an album that many people were looking forward to. Obviously, we had Taylor Swift drop, so most people probably listen to Taylor Swift. But you know, just to keep that in mind, keep her in mind. Mariah Scientist is an up and coming artist that I think that could potentially get bigger. Put it that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, like I said, I enjoyed her on the song with Trippy, so I'll definitely give that a listen sometime this week. That sounds like a plan. Sounds like you enjoyed it a lot.
Definitely.
So yeah,
definitely.
I'll definitely put that on the listen to list. Just moving along. Doesn't look like we have much coming out next week, just for what to look forward to. The only thing that I'm seeing on the Genius calendar for November 3rd is Kevin Abstract's Blanket. Kevin Abstract obviously being a member of the former boy band rap group known as Brockhampton. So we'll see. You know, right now that's just what's expected to drop. You never know if it'll actually drop or not. I say that every week, but I would expect that to drop. Like I said, nothing else really that I see that we will be planning on listening to. Again, you never know, someone could surprise drop. So we'll keep our eyes and ears on the watch out for that. And apart from that, that's all I got. You got anything else you want to add, Elijah?
Yeah, no, I didn't see anything else really that's supposed to drop either. I'll say that sorry, excuse me. Sorry. Apologize for the dog. My roommate just left, so he's a little, sad that his owner just left. But no, I'd say that I do want to keep doing this for you guys, where like if there's some not lower tier artist, but an artist who isn't as well known and they drop, I don't mind talking about a little bit about the album, or I'm sure Logan wouldn't mind doing that, but like we're just kind of in the time of the year where like there's not too many projects that are most likely going to drop. We said it before, we keep saying it. It's just that time of year where artists aren't really releasing, or big artists at least aren't really releasing too much, because it's just not really. It's kind of awkward. If you care about the Grammys, it's very awkward time to release it now. But beyond that, this is also just like a weird time because, as soon as November 1st hits, what song's going to shoot up to number one. So, it's kind of, you're competing with those type of songs. So, I think that from the perspective of music, though, just keep in mind that, we're probably going to be talking less about established artists in these next few months, and more about, artists that are maybe not as established, or artists that are kind of rising up. But we'll definitely keep it interesting and try our best to mix in some more content for you guys as well, because obviously you guys want to hear more than just about 5-second blurbs about some random artist. So we'll try to keep it interesting for you guys, but definitely continue to comment, like, subscribe. Remember to we'll keep doing some polls. I have some ideas of some polls I'm gonna talk to Logan about. We're gonna put them up, and we're gonna try to get you guys more engaged. So just keep engaging with us. And remember, when you when you like and subscribe, also share it with somebody else too. Share it with somebody that you know that you think would enjoy.
Yeah, help us grow, man. Help us grow. Definitely do everything that Elijah just said. Keep listening. Like I said, we're kind of winding down, and at least in my busy season, so I plan on getting a lot more stuff out to y'all once I have a little bit more free time on my hands. Still enjoying doing what we're doing, and we're gonna keep doing it, man. I appreciate y'all coming to check us out. Let us know if there's anything you want to hear us talk about. If there's an artist that we would have never heard of, hit us up on the socials, man. We'll check it out, no doubt.
Absolutely.
That's all we got for y'all on this one. Appreciate y'all giving us a listen. Let us know what y'all thought about these projects personally, and see y'all next time. Peace.
Peace out, guys.